everyone, Sarah here. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for hanging out with me for another ink swatching video. I'm going to start off today's video with a controversial opinion, and that is that cheese shapes are the best ones. Not barbecue, not pizza, cheese. They're so good. And you're probably going to hear my wife demolish a packet of them in the background of this video because that's how good they are. Anyway, onto the swatching. All right, so today we are doing an ink swatching video. My awesome pen friend Jay sent me a collection of greens and browns because I said they are the next colors I'm really wanting to explore. She has a YouTube channel which is worth checking out. I'll put it in the description. I've got the usual gear with me. The only difference is two differences. Two of the inks she sent me, one which I've tried and one which I haven't, not that one, are known to be really great sheeners, and Stalogy paper doesn't show sheening that well, and because they're kind of known for it, especially this one, I'm going to do two swatches. I've just got a little bit of Tomoe River paper here as well, so just for those two, and I'll do them first. I'm going to double up and do it on Tomoe River. Everything else is the same. The Pilot Irawatsushi Fine Nib, my little inky thing. The only other difference, and this really just affects me, not you guys, is I don't have a cup of decaffeinated tea. I have red wine because, my friends, it has been a day. Any of my fellow breastfeeding mothers out there, this drink's for you. So who knows? Let's see what happens. No, nothing will happen. I'm just drinking wine instead of tea. Everything else is the same. No more dilly-dallying. Let's jump in. I have 4 greens and 3 browns. I have tried a couple of the greens. All the browns are going to be new to me, which is the best. That's so exciting when that happens. And yeah, hopefully we can discover some great colors. So first up, I'm going to, as I said, do the sheening ones first, is Monteverde California Teal. It's in the title. This is a teal ink and it can get a really, really amazing sheen on it. I have used it in Stalogy paper before and really haven't seen the sheen, especially in writing samples, but it is what this ink is known for. This is an ink much loved by a lot of people. So let's give it a go. And what I'm just thinking about, maybe for these two, is actually just putting the blotting paper under the Tomoe River. So I'm going to do the same approach on both the ink, the little measuring cup ink swatch. Oops. So I'm on the hunt for measuring cups like this, but in like the teaspoon, tablespoon, blah, blah, blah size, because like in that ink deep dive that I did, I did like smaller circles with a paintbrush and it's a different layer. So I thought if I can get one that's exactly the same, just smaller, it might be a better comparison. First up, the thing that I noticed the most is just looking at it on the cup compared to the paper, you can actually see the blue through it. I know that light's probably annoying, but there you go. You can see the blue through it on the cup much more than you can actually on either ink sample, which is just interesting to me. So let's go for a writing sample then. So this is Monteverde. Now from memory, it actually was more of a teal, like bluer when I used it last time. I'm wondering if it goes down greener and then dries more of a teal. I haven't used it in quite a while, so I'm going off memory here. I'm also not sure, maybe I'll add a little bit more there just so we can really see that sheen. Montever. Oh, look, I did it wrong. It should be in capitals. That's so annoying. That's just in keeping with how things are going today, but that's okay. I wonder if I can use the excess here as to not waste any. So the reason that I'm having a day, because all of you asked, it's okay. We just got out of sleep school for the second time, and my son took to it really well. It's great. But within that, he's gone from like basically feeding all throughout the night to just doing 3 feeds a day, which is amazing. That's exactly what we wanted. But for those who've had experience with breastfeeding before, going from like 10 feeds to 3 in a matter of days is really intense on your body, and specifically on a certain part of your body. And I'm just finding it really rough. I've had mastitis twice before in this round of breastfeeding. I didn't ever with my daughter, and I'm just really worried about getting it again. And it's just been a day of lots of pain and ice packs and heat packs, and it just gets to you in the end. So what I'm noticing really interestingly, and of course this is the way with how today's going, is it almost looks like it's sheening more there than on the Tomoe River, which does not make sense. So I'm going to grab that sample back. So look, it's a nice green. I did think it was bluer, but my memory is wrong. It's a nice, deep, rich green. And hopefully if I lay it on a bit more here, you'll be able to start to see the sheen. The dip pen is a fine nib, so I'm not too sure we're going to see much coming through in that. But you never know. It's turned my water into this beautiful, deep teal. It almost, I don't know why, it kind of reminds me of the ocean, that like bluey green of the waves. But that is that. I do think even without the sheen, it's a nice green to write with. I think it looks nice and rich and deep. Just in that pooling there, you can start to see some of that sheen. Well, let's come back to this one and see once it dries if that really shows up. Next up is an ink I've heard of, but I have actually never tried before, Robert Oster River of Fire. So kind of similar to this. This is a green with a pink sheen, and you can see that reddish pinkish sheen starting to come up on that Monteverde sample as it dries. It looks like a nice deep green in that vial. Very generous ink sample there. Hopefully we get maybe we will get some sheen on this paper then. Oh, wow. Oh, I love that green. So straight away what I'm seeing there, there's just like a coolness to that green. If you compare it, you can see, well, I think you can see the blues and the greys coming through there. I'm not getting any hints of sheen yet, but just as a green, I love that. It's like dark, it's deep and kind of like mossy almost. Kind of annoys me that little bit of ink went whoop over there. Let's see how it writes. That's beautiful. And see, like, it's not that I'm not a massive fan of sheen. It's just not something I necessarily gravitate towards. And so it doesn't bother me that sometimes on Stalogy, like, you can't see it. But what I do like about this paper is that ink, even if you can't see the sheen, still just looks gorgeous on this paper. I think that is really, really nice. So this is Robert Oster River of Fire. Really not seeing any little bits of you're getting some shading as well in this ink. Feels really nice on both the Saligy and the Tomoe River paper. Possibly, no, you know what, in both, I was going to say maybe just on the Tomoe River, but probably more on the Tomoe River compared to the Saligy, but you are definitely getting little bits of shading in there. Let's come back to this one when it dries, but even if there was no sheen in that at all, I love that is a deep, rich green, undertones of black and blue in there. It almost makes this look like a bit, what's the right word? This looks more natural compared to this. I have no reasoning behind that. But that's just what it's speaking to me. It's like, you know, in certain things or like certain colored lollies, you just know it's fake. Like there's just that color. It's like that color just doesn't exist in the actual world. When I put that color down, it's not that I think that, but compared to this, that's what that makes me think a bit more. As it is drying, you are definitely starting to see that sheen. So look, let's keep going and then we'll come back to look at these once they're dry. Next up is an ink I do have used and love, and it is loved by so many people. Rohrer Klingner alt-goldgrun. There's just something about this ink. The green is on a lighter side. There's hints of yellow and brown in there, but it's just a great ink. I think it's a classic for a reason. It is loved by many, and I don't think that that love is unwarranted or overhyped. Even just looking at it, oh, there you go, even just at the cap. It's on the lighter side, but you can put it in a fine nib pen. You can still read it really clearly. Ticks all the boxes. Now, I have 4 greens. You think after however many videos I'd know about spacing. Alas, not today. Let's see if I can get 4 on here. Where do I go up there? So, it's just awesome. Look at that. It's pulled in the grooves of the grid. That's never happened before. That's so bizarre. I wonder what it is, just about, maybe it was like I had some oil on my fingers or something, or shapes. It's kind of going now, but I'm just saying if you can see it on the camera, you can a little bit. There you go, it is slowly going. That has never happened in all of my swatching before. When I look at that sample, it just looks like a really lovely light to medium green. I do think like the yellowy browns, like you can see in there, like you could say it's like a distant cousin of khaki versus these kind of more foresty greens. I think this sits in a different world, but it's a world I'm really happy to be in. And for the writing, so fine nib, little bits of shading, but it's just really legible. And I mean, I feel like all of us have experienced, you find this ink, it's on the lighter side, you swatch it and the swatch looks amazing, and then you put it in a pen and go to write with it, and you know, that journal entry or that handwriting practice or that letter or whatever it would be is going to be a mystery, because you're going to have to strain your eyes so much to read it. This isn't that, and I think that is a big part of why it's loved so much. And even just look at that pooling now. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous ink. So you'll see from some of my recent videos, I've started adding some little transitions in, because for some reason when I clean out this blunt tip syringe, it's really, really loud. Like it sounds like really forceful water being pushed out or something, which is what's happening. But that is the reason you are seeing a little bit more editing in my videos of late. Last up is a Noodler's ink. So this is Noodler's Air Corp Blue Black. Is that like Air Corp like corporal? I don't know. I don't know anything about the army, or I guess it's the Air Force. I've seen swatches of this. I haven't tried this ink before. So let's see how it goes. The last Noodlers I swatched in this Salogy feathered like crazy. Like even just the tiniest bit on this dip pen, it was, yeah, like feathering on steroids. So let's see how this one goes. I also, and completely acknowledge, I'm like, I think like a year and a half late to this, but I fell down on one of the nights of constant feeding my son and him sleeping in my arms. The Reddit rabbit hole about everything that was happening with Noodlers last year. Intense. Definitely makes you think, I guess, or conscious of where you're putting your money in purchasing things. But let's not get into that. This isn't meant to be a controversial video at all. What's really interesting is when I first lifted up the cup, I went, oh, there's like a real teal there. But then as I've, I guess, turned it or something, you can see in the lighter bits, the blue is really coming through. And then as we get darker, you're getting to that blue, black, tealy feel. But here, to me, that looks like quite a light blue. I'm interested to see when it dries if any of that green shows through, but it almost looks like grey. What's blue and grey together? Grew. Maybe I thought of grew because I just watched the Minions movie for the first time with my daughter, and she was sitting on my lap. We were kind of like hugging while we were watching it, and then I was laughing so much she got up because she found it uncomfortable sitting on me while I was laughing. That movie is hilarious. Haven't watched The Rise of Gru yet, but you know, we'll get there, I guess. It's amazing looking at the four of them. These look really green to me. That definitely looks like yellower. That looks more kind of medium, like textbook green, I guess. And then this you're getting into some kind of colder colors, grungier. That's probably why I love it. And this just looks so blue. But I wonder what would happen if you swatch that standalone. Would the teal be coming through a bit more? Because I think I have said this on a video before, and some other people have commented as well. There's definitely a tendency for blue-black inks to look greenish or to verge towards green. The reason I actually like Robert Oster Blue Black is that it verges purple. So this is Noodler's ink. Is it with an S? No. The writing sample definitely looks greener compared to the swatch. If you look, and it hasn't feathered, which is cool. So if I was to just look at, I'm going to try and cover some of this a little bit. If I was just to look at those two writing samples, yes, that one looks greener, but they look a lot more similar to me than those two swatches. That looks greener, that does look bluer, but they look much closer, like there's a relationship between them. And then I bring the swatches in and they look completely different. But I quite like that writing sample. It felt really nice on the dip pen, which is always, you know, something. It's put down a decent amount of ink. It hasn't feathered, which is great because I think it was Noodler's Catalpa, I think it was called, and it was just this crazy feathering. So as these dry, I'll just bring this paper back up here. So of the four greens that we've swatched, we have Monteverde California Teal, and here it is on the Tomoe River. Robert Oster River of Fire, which is still drying, granted, but you're starting to see little bits of pink sheen there. Rohrer Klingner alt-goldgrun, and Noodler's ink Aircot Blue Black. Before we go on to the browns, I thought I would just do a little bit of a close-up. And how bizarre with this one, even that bit's like drying in a straight line. So they are the 4 greens that my awesome pen friends sent to play with and have a swatch of. All right, we have 3 browns to swatch. I haven't tried any of these. And the one I'm going to start with is this one, Colorverse Coffee Break. I've heard a few people talk about this recently. I'm pretty sure Karina Loves to Plan has done a video on this, and maybe the Joy in Pens and Paper as well. I think this ink is starting to develop a bit of a following. I never thought that I would be into brown inks, and I'm really just starting out. I haven't actually used any in a pen yet, but I really, really enjoy writing with Robert Oster Gold Antiqua, which has elements of brown. And in a recent Happy Mail ink package that I got sent, there were some browns and like brown adjacents in it, and I was just surprised by how much I really like them and really want to get them in a pen. So, oh God, I've gone a bit wonky. Oh, I've gone so wonky on that. Oh, man. It is what it is. I don't know if that made it any better. So there's a warmth to that straight away, which I wasn't expecting. It would help if I bring it in frame. Yes, it's brown, but there's like bits of orange and pink. You can see there, even between the lighter bit and where I went over it again. It's just welcoming. I can understand why it's called coffee break, but I actually don't drink coffee, but it does kind of remind me of a cup of coffee, I guess, that has some milk in it, or even just like a caramel. There's just something like a lusciousness or a warmth to it, which is really cool to see. I'm really intrigued to see how it writes. That's almost how I have my tea. Maybe I have my tea a touch lighter. Oh, that writes really nicely. Oh, look what I just did. Oh, I'm so angry with myself. Oh, it is not my day. Riveting YouTube content. You guys watching as I sit here and get annoyed with myself. I cannot believe I just did that. That is going to bug me so much. All right, get over it. Get over it, get over it, get over it. So back to this. I love how it writes. Quite a bit of shading, which is cool. I mean, if it hasn't become quite obvious, I'm definitely like shading is, I think, what I love the most. If you go shading, shimmer, sheen, shading is really where I want to be. I definitely am seeing more like of the undertones in the swatch compared to the writing sample, but I really like it. And I think if you think about like a currently inked in multiple pens, like pairing that or having that included with either like a warmer green or even something like this, like you could think, I think it could tie it in nicely, because then there's a warmth in that then you could bring in a pink or a burgundy or something just to kind of tie it all together. So first brown swatched, really, really like. Next up, an ink that I'm definitely going to mispronounce, Rohrer 1670, Caroubier de Chypre. Yep. Let's go with that. Ooh. I just kind of know I'm going to like this.
Hey guys, just voiceover, Sarah jumping in here. When I don't know what an ink is when I swatch them, I don't Google it beforehand, I go in blind, but it means that I didn't realize that this ink is actually a shimmer ink with a really nice sheen. I re-swatched it after the video and after I realized, but I think my sample just doesn't have much shimmer in it because nothing really came up. So I've decided to keep this video as is because I actually really like the base color, how it is. But it is worth Googling to look at the really, really cool sheen and a gold shimmer.
Oh my God, I just saw a bit of the swatch. Oh, that is amazing. That to me, this might not make sense because at first I was using words like burnt and rich and that, but it kind of reminds me of sometimes, when you look at a piece of fruit and the fruit will be orange, but it's not an orange you can ever recreate. Like there's something kind of like what I was saying about this one, there's like a natural organicness to it. Like that just reminds me of like almost like a plum. Like, how you get some plums and you open them up and they start off that really kind of deep red purple and they almost go to like a light, like to that. And my son is smashing plums at the moment, so I've spent a lot of time looking at them. That looks yum. It looks like delicious. It looks velvety and smooth and warm and rich and decadent. There, I finally got there. It looks decadent. That's just really beautiful. And it's the same thing again, I'm talking about this one being warm and then you put this one down and it's like, what are you talking about? Reds, pinks, browns, peaches, beiges, blushes, all of that color, those colors are coming through. So how many spelling mistakes am I going to make? Let's try and write this in. So as I was saying before I got distracted with the ink swatch, I would love to know what your favorite brown is and your favorite green. I feel like brown is going to be like a really particular color. I don't feel like there's going to just be, I feel like people are going to have quite strong opinions about browns. I think you're either really going to love it or hate it because let's be honest, brown is associated with a certain bodily function. So if you're putting a brown ink down and you're going, oh, that reminds me of that, you're not going to use it. Even almost like sometimes like vomit, a different bodily function. I think it's just a color that can be quite evocative of different things. So I'm always interested, green somewhat, but to a lesser extent. I think like green's kind of in this world. You can like them and you'll like more others, more, oh my God, words. You're going to have a range or a spectrum of liking some and liking some more and liking some less, but I don't think they're going to evoke really, really strong opinions. Sometimes I'm thinking more in this medium range, maybe here a little bit different. I think with brown, so it's going to be a bit different. I look at these and those two I actually really love, but before I put that one down, I was like, oh, love this. But even just comparing them, love this so much more. It's just interesting. So yeah, pop down in the comments below what your favorite brown is. And to be honest, if you're still watching this far in, thanks for sticking with me because some may say I've been a hot mess in this video, but you know what? Keeping it real. It's been one of those days, but doing this stuff, I find it really calming. I think ink swatching can have quite a meditative quality to it. Even though you can't answer back, I do feel like I'm being, becoming more and more connected with you guys in this community. And I like asking questions. I don't ask questions for the sake of it. I am interested in your answers. So at the end of a really crappy day, this is actually something that makes me feel better and helps me turn my mind off a bit, you know, as I get ready for bed. Or as I, after this, you know, pack up, think about winding down for the night. All right, last but not least, Robert Oster Toffee. My water has turned to like this really nice, almost like a slightly orange chamomile tea type feel. Just looks like a really nice warm drink. It won't taste like it, but oh God, what am I doing with my swatches today? Oh God. Deep breaths, deep breaths. So of the three of them, this to me probably reads as like the truest brown. So looking at these three together, this is what I love about ink swatching, because you take one color, brown, and they are so different. Maybe this one reads as the quote unquote truest, and then you get into this awesome pinky red goodness. I just want to put that in every pen territory. And then you look at this one. When I first put this down, it actually looked quite orange, but then as it's drying, parts of it look yellow, like down here, but there is like almost like this like orange tint to it. And then where it's getting darker, it is coming through more brown. I definitely understand the name of toffee or caramel. It definitely has that feel to it. I don't know if these are just in Australia, but it's like when you get like a caramel slice and there's like the biscuit and then the caramel. I can, you know, there's like a sweetness to it, which is nice. I was watching an Inksplat Amanda B video, and I've been saying, you know, like around the edges it's doing this. And I think she was talking about haloing. And I think that's what I've been trying to talk about, is like around the edges of the pools. I'm hoping that's what she means. It's haloing to like a darker brown with like some hints of black in there. And actually just looking at it really closely, where it's bleeding through, it's almost like the bits of black are what are bleeding through versus the bits of brown. It's not what I was expecting the ink to be. I thought it was going to be warmer, but leaning more, or I guess not as orange. I wasn't expecting like those lighter bits in there. I think I was expecting it more to be like this. There you go. Let's have a look at the writing sample. I've said this before, every now and then an ink on the dip pen, you know, it's not going through a feed or anything else, but it just feels really nice on the nib. That ink just felt really nice on the nib. There was a smoothness to it. Again, you know, as I've said before, definitely love an ink that reads lighter but is really legible. I definitely think that fits or ticks that box. I'm not seeing as much of like that orange that I was seeing in the swatch that I'm seeing there. It probably does look closer to the Colorverse in the writing. Be interesting to see in a wider nib if you do see more of that difference. But I like the look of this. It's an interesting ink. The swatch is just throwing me off. I don't know if it can see it through the camera as much, but these like lighter bits are just looking like super orange there, and I don't like that color as much. I kind of like it where it gets a bit darker and moodier, but let's see what happens when it dries completely. So I'm just going to put the lid on that before I tip something over, because let's be honest, look how this video has gone. So I'll just go through everything. We'll come to these ones last so they dry. I've done a close-up, but I'll just bring this Tomoe River paper back. So you can see the sheen on the Monteverde there. You're not really getting anything in the writing sample, a little bit on the downstroke of the T, but you can see where it's pooling. That's the sheen that you're getting. Robert Oster River of Fire. I thought you would get more, to be honest, but you can see the border there, that pink sheen. Am I getting anything in the writing sample? Nothing in the writing sample. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this on the other page just to see the comparison. I swear, when I first swatched Monteverde Teal in On Stylogy paper, I did not get one tiny, nothing, got no sheen whatsoever. Here, you actually are getting a bit, nothing in the writing sample, but looking at that pool there. And again, not as much on the River of Fire, but you are getting a little bit. Look at that goodness there. I think it kind of looks like to me it looks like a rooster or a chicken falling over, like it's turning, going, oop, that's its little beak, and then these are its legs and it's like falling over. That's what I see. Sorry that I messed up the swatch, but it is what it is. So we've done a close-up of those ones. So let's just look at these ones quickly, and then I promise I will end this train wreck of a video. First up, Colorverse Coffee Break. I think this is going to be a really nice shader, and like it's not that it just goes darker where it pulls, but it gets warmer. Like if you kind of follow this line through there, you can see bits of like reddy pink undertones like in the middle there, and then it's different again here where it just looks like a real darker rich brown. I think it's named perfectly. As much as I don't drink coffee, I'm around a lot of people who drink coffee, and it has that kind of luxurious thick kind of coffee feel to it. So really interesting. This I have never heard of before, and I just love everything about this. I don't know. I know, you know what? I can understand why it could be seen as a brown, but it just has this, it just reminds me of like flowers, kind of like really nice petals. Writing sample looks great. Look at where it's gone really dark there. Bit of black, bit of brown, and then coming out to these like really dark. It's like if blush and brown had a baby. I think this is what its child would be, and I'm here for it. Robert Oster Toffee, probably my least favorite of the three. It's almost like it can't decide where it wants to sit. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it yellow? Is it orange? Like what undertone is it wanting to bring through? It's got some pretty cool haloing there though. Definitely like some black in there, that's probably the bit I like the most, but these lighter bits here, not liking as much. That being said, the things that I'm not liking in the swatch, I'm actually not seeing in the writing sample. I quite like the writing sample, which I guess is another example of why it's great to have both, and why I am enjoying doing writing samples in a nib that is somewhat similar to pens that I'm using. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much to my pen friend for sending these. I'm just taken with this. Always love this. This one, there's some great ink here. I can't wait to get them into a pen. Would love to know what you think, if you've used any of these, if there's a favorite here, or if there's one here that you haven't seen before and now you definitely want to give it a go. Let me know in the comments below. As always, it's been my absolute pleasure. Sorry if I've been a bit complainy in this video. I will try to be happier in the next one, and I will chat to you guys all again soon. Bye.